Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Can you believe we're in April already? It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. But I've got whiplash. So much has been happening in this year already. And we're now upon elections. We have three major elections three that are going to say so much, tell us so much about where we are in the United States today. And it's not that simple. Democrats, although they came within 2 percentage points of capturing the White House, at least in terms of the popular vote last November, Democrats are really struggling. They are at the lowest ebb of their popularity since we've been measuring such things. What's going on? And even though Donald Trump is having a tough time of it, all things being equal, he's not having as tough a time of it as Democrats are, as his fellow Republicans are. And we're seeing something very, very interesting. These congressional town hall meetings, they have been full of fire. Initially, we saw the fire directed toward the Republicans. Ah, but the fire is also being fired in the way of the Democrats. People are telling Democrats, do your job, be the opposition. If you vote and you lose, okay, but I need you to fight. And so AOC and Senator Bernie Sanders, led by Bernie Sanders, they're out on the road. They're attracting crowds. And a lot of people in the crowds, according to reports, are Trump voters. That should not surprise you because in 2016, Trump voters and Bernie Sanders voters really toggle between each other. It's not that surprising. At the end of the day, one of the things that I've learned in politics is that particularly when you have this kind of populist mood, this populist uprising that I think that we're beginning to see, it really is not about the person. We make a mistake when we make it about Donald Trump, Huey Long, Jesse Jackson, whoever. Some of these figures, well, they will end up standing out in our history, and history does tell that story over time. But in real time, people want someone to go out and fight for them. That is what you're seeing. So I was struck when I saw this Politico headline, this article. We dug into the polls, is the headline. Democrats in Congress should be very afraid. As Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer knows better than anyone. Uh, they write the Democratic base is, well, let's say very peeved. We'll put it that way. And not just a little. The intensity of the anger roiling the party is at an historic level, suggesting a breach between congressional Democrats and the party grassroots so severe that it could reshape the 2026 primary election season. Many people took it as an article of faith that Democrats would be able to walk into 2026 and really just roll on through. But I don't know if it's going to be that simple because Americans are increasingly becoming independent. Also, I think we have to acknowledge that. And we haven't even begun to really calculate the impact of the young who are divorcing themselves from the major parties altogether. So let's talk about this with Theo Hardiman. Of course, you've got a tremendous book. We catch him on WVON, the iconic Black Talk radio station here in Chicago, but you can catch him at any time. Go to WVON.com every Sunday from 6 to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Theo Hardiman. And of course, we've got Livonia Perryman, a veteran journalist, award-winning journalist, television, radio. She's also a veteran of these campaigns, particularly presidential campaigns. And she's worked with the Democrats for a long time, for decades. And so she's got a lot of experience, a lot that she can show. She's also in academia. So she kind of hits it on all spots. We're going to come to you, Rania, after we speak to Dr. David Gibbs. Rania Patrice, veteran Democratic insider, although they treat us like outsiders, but it's all right, my sister. And she has been an organizer, working with the party for a few decades herself. And we're seeing some things, and we have been talking about the things that we have been seeing. We've been flashing the warning signs for a long time. And when we would do that, people would say, "You're not being a Democratic Party loyalist." Well, I'm an adult. I'm an independent Democrat, number one, and I was raised to be critical of those in whom I've invested my hopes, my dreams. And if I'm going to work with you, I reserve the right to criticize you. If I can't criticize you, I will not work with you. So let's get right to it. The Revolt of the Rich is his book. If you want to understand why we are where we are, oh, I keep saying it, but it's true. Because we did see the rich revolt behind really a lot of the economic equalizing we saw from FDR's time through the 60s. And we have seen them really, it came to fruition with Reagan, but it's kept on going, the corporatizing of America. And so, what do you make of this? Really, it's not a pessimistic view. It's another kind of view, and I think Democrats are feeling it. I see Gavin Newsom on television. I saw Josh Shapiro. I see Rahm Emanuel saying, "Hey, we've got to change our messaging," and they also need to change people because people want something else. So, what do you make of the Democrats? Are they reading the room correctly?
I don't see them reading the room correctly for the most part. A significant deviation from this has always been and continues to be Bernie Sanders. And the reason I say it's a deviation is that he really does have significant cross-party popularity. There have been public opinion polls showing that he does have significant working class support among people who voted for Donald Trump. They also like Bernie Sanders. His critics, I remember in 2016, called him a Trump of the left, as if it were an insult. To me, we've decided whether or not it's an insult. I think it's true. He's a Trump of the left in the sense that he appeals to the same working class constituency. And I think what that whole issue underscores is the extent to which the Democrats are appealing, well, like the Republicans, clearly the real base is the top 1% or top 1/10 of 1%. If you look at billionaires, both parties clearly got a lot of billionaire support. Actually, the Democrats did better among billionaires in the last election than Trump did. I think the billionaire class regards Trump as unstable, and they don't like unstable. They regard the Democrats as a much more stable defender of their interests, which I think is mostly an accurate assertion. Trump obviously is doing things that are wonderful for the billionaire class, but he's just regarded as a little bit too much of a wild card, as opposed to Harris and Biden, who were more predictable. At a mass level, the Democrats have gone very much for an upper crust vote. I've said this many times in the show, but the data on this are very clear. The Democrats used to be the party of the working class in terms of at least their voting base. It was mostly the working class that voted for them. Now, increasingly, it's people with advanced degrees and high incomes. And we used to say that, the Democrats would at least get people of color, but that's becoming a little bit more complicated among Hispanics. In my state of Arizona, you're seeing a significant shift to the Republicans. Even among African Americans, which are still a very reliably Democratic group, Trump did with 17%. I think that was the number he got. That's pretty good for a Republican. And the Democrats simply aren't holding on to their traditional voters, except people who listen to NPR regularly, basically, and read the New York Times. That's their constituency. And the problem is there aren't enough of that many people around. I think the number of people with a college degree, a four-year college degree, is 38% of the population. That leaves a majority who do not have college degrees. And the Democrats simply, I think in the past, they've had almost no interest in that group. I've made very little effort to gain that group. And even now, they're just so stuck in kind of a rut of appealing to the upper crust crowd. They don't know how to appeal to working class people. Bernie Sanders is different. He does seem to have an ability to reach working class voters, which is one of the reasons I think they didn't want him in 2016 or 2020. And but he's still holding these rallies with really remarkably large attendance. It does indicate that the Democratic base still has a pulse. The Democrats are still active out there. Mainly in the West, he had a tour in the West, including in my hometown of Tucson, with very large crowds. And I think anywhere in the country, he would draw very large crowds. But the party itself does seem to have no strategy that I'm seeing. I'm not seeing any kind of strategy about will we gain a real majority in this country? The only thing the Democrats have going for them is the Republicans are similarly weak. Trump won, did his best performance ever, winning by only 1.5% of the vote, and the popular vote at least. And he has a razor thin majority in the House of Representatives. He's in better shape in the Senate. It's not as if things are hopeless for the Democrats. The midterm elections, almost certainly the House, or at least I would think it's highly likely, the House of Representatives will move to the Democratic column. The economy probably will not do great. We may have a recession. Even without a recession, I think Trump's tariffs are likely to make things worse in terms of prices. That will not go over well with his base. And I don't see Trump as really doing any major innovations here that are going to make things better for working people, or the people who voted for him. So I don't really see he's going to have a great midterm election, although the Senate is so stacked for a variety of reasons. I think that will remain Republican. I think things will remain on kind of a knife edge. We're at a 50-50 level. About almost exactly half the population favors one party, half the other party, with a lot of hatred and anger and unresolved issues. And I don't really see that changing immediately. I think the Democrats could change it if they really went in a populist direction, but that they seem to have an allergy to populism and an allergy to populist language and populist style, and seem so committed to an upper crust style. And of course, they have their billionaire base, which impedes any real movement towards an authentic.
It's their donor class.
It's their donor class. That's absolutely right. Both parties have this, but for some reason, the Republicans are able to finesse that.
They always pivot. I mean, the Republicans pivoted to Trump. I know a lot of Republicans, established Republicans, that do not like him.
Oh, yeah.
And it's visceral. They're not playing.
That's right.
But they will tell you, no, I voted for him because I need the Republicans to do ...
Yeah.
But the fact is, he is for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, even in New York, he was seen as someone who was coarse and not polished. And you see him bucking against that. That is something that is a real sore spot for him, Dr. Gibbs.
I agree. Just stylistically, you can just listen to the way Trump talks. He does this overly simplistic, almost insultingly simplistic style of speaking, this vulgar, very blasphemous way of speaking. But the public is angry, and that's what the public wants right now. At least a lot of them certainly want it. And the Democrats have this very sort of academic style of speaking, and that's great if you're speaking to an academic audience. But the country is mostly not college educated and don't want to hear that kind of thing. And so the Democrats just seem to have a cultural problem, partly. Most of it's a political problem. Again, it's the donor class here. But it's also a cultural problem that they're very wedded to these. The term boutique issues has been used, and that's kind of insulting, but it's bleakly accurate. They have these boutique issues, and they complain when people make too much of things like gender-neutral pronouns and drag queen story. It was the Democrats who gave this to the Republicans on a silver platter as a gift. And they keep gifting these issues to the Republicans, and they complain when the Republicans demagogue these issues. And the Democrats have nobody to blame but themselves because they invented a lot of these things. And in the New York Times in 2016, there was an editorial saying that there was so much focus on gender-neutral bathrooms, and editorialist, his name, he's a professor at Columbia, I forget his name, said, people are tired of hearing about the Democrats' gender-neutral bathrooms, and it's true, and people attacked him for that. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, these are very silly issues the Democrats keep on focusing on, and they're losing votes over it. They don't seem to get that point.
Well, I mean, and I can tell you, Livonia, on the cultural issues, with blacks, they are losing a lot of traction. I know T.O. can speak to that too. And Dr. Latrice when we bring her on. But Livonia?
Well, first and foremost, you're absolutely correct, Doctor, that one, and so are you, my girl, my lady, that we as Democrats have yet to figure out how to speak to America, not just to our party. We have all this technology around us, worldwide technology that is instant, and our message is not and did not and has not as yet gotten through. When I looked at the statistic from what you shared with me from Politico, just imagine that 49% of congressional members are being supported now. 49%. 2020, it was 75%. There is a major message gap. And if you allow, and one thing I want to share, if nothing else, Trump is good at creating chaos. So where there is chaos, the messaging could be misunderstood, not under, and you can't get it through. But some sort of way, the Democrats have yet, and they've had years to figure this out now, to get their message on point. Since I have a dream, since I am somebody, since those times, we can remember that we were brought up on I have a dream, I am somebody. If we don't remember nothing else, we remember those slogans, the verbs. They became passionate part of our lives. The Democrats have yet to figure out how to get 9 words together, 10, I'm just using that as an example, to get the message across that they are the party of choice, party of the people. And so their message is being lost in the midst of chaos. And the chaos is purposely drawn. This is not no accident that the Republicans develop chaos. Chaos, you can write a whole dissertation on chaos because it creates an environment where people can infiltrate your community, your culture, your ideas, your schools, your churches through chaos. And so we have yet to figure out how to put a stop to that. The doctor just mentioned, and it's such amazing to me when we looked at the numbers. 17, 18% of African American men, it's not something we made up, voted for Trump. Now you would say, well, they're going to get 5 or 6, but I remember in 2014 to be exact, that there was a discussion among the Republicans that, hey, if we just get a pinch, a percentage of African Americans, men, that's what they were focused on, they would be successful. And they worked at that. They worked at working at the messaging, working at focusing on the individual. What is it that these brothers, my good brothers, needed to hear? What is it that they were looking for? What were they asking for? And when they found out, they put together a message in 2016 and 2020 and 2024. And here we are today. Not by accident. None of this is by accident. Then you say, well, the chaos. What is the chaos? Well, they wrote a book, 2025. And at this very moment, Trump is there going step by step because I keep telling folks, he has shared with us over and over what he was going to do. We can sit here and talk about, well, I didn't know. This is happening. We have, if we didn't even have to read the book because he was willing to tell you what he was going to do. I'm going to just use journalism, for example. He said, I am going to dismantle ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. Now you say, well, he's not going to take it down. He's not going to blow it up. No, what he does is take the messengers out. They take the messengers.
But Livonia, they're kind of doing it to themselves too, because the top network now has turned out to become YouTube.
Yes.
I mean, the whole media landscape, and he has gone with that. Mm-hmm. And you've seen the White House press corps push back against it. I'm like, honey, if you have to talk to Joe Rogan, you've talked to no one in this cycle. I mean, there's some people you just hold on one because I want to move around before Dr. Gibbs leaves us. Ronnie Patrice, and I hold on to that because the media piece and the messaging, because that's your area of expertise. I know this must send off little aneurysms in your brain when you are hearing the Democrats and the messaging. And I can't believe Rania is not saying anything. You're just sitting here looking like I told you so. Is that the caption I should have for you now?
Still, that's the thought bubble, always. I try really hard not to say I told you so because that's not helpful. Um, but my dear sister Santita knows because we talked about this ad nauseum, at length, endlessly,
We were in Washington at the
endlessly.
DNC meeting looking at each other like, are they serious?
Because how it's the definition of insanity.
Whew.
Right? It's literally the definition of insanity to continue doing the same thing over and over again. And then scratch your heads and go, why do we keep losing? No, you know what? It's worse than that because they don't scratch their heads and go, why do we keep losing? They make excuses for why we keep losing, and it's everything except for what's actually happening. And I'll tell you, Dr. Gibbs, I was Bernie's deputy campaign manager in 2016, and let me tell you, the man is not perfect. I love him dearly. No one is. But the thing about it that I always talk about with him and some others too, I can't tell you how many, I've worked in politics for so long, how many calls I got in 2016 because people forget in 2015 when I started with him, when he had 2% name ID and nobody knew who he was and like $100,000 in the bank, nobody cared, right? It was like actually a friend of mine, when I decided to go work for him, said I was going to join the circus. Literally, he still tells that story. He says, Rania, my friend Rania, went to join the circus. Fine. But fast forward, then he's like this whatever popular guy, and then all of a sudden everybody has opinions, and the number of phone calls I got from everybody telling us how bad we were doing because everyone remembers that moment on stage during the debate when he said, I'm sick and tired of hearing about Hillary's damn emails. My phone would not stop ringing, text, your guy screwed up, he just gave it away, blah blah blah, all these things. And the reality is that is who Bernie Sanders is. That is who he is at his core. We could have, none of us did, but we could have begged and pleaded with him to not say something like that, but it doesn't matter because the thing about Bernie is he wants to talk about the issues, and he wants to talk about how do we make life better for people. And this is where I do get a little bit prickly when people talk about Bernie and Trump in the same sentence. I do get it because they're both disruptive to the system, but obviously very different human beings, at their core. But the reality is, and we saw this in 2022, and I said this, and I'm going to say it again out loud, the the establishment of the Democratic Party would have rather Donald Trump win again in 2020 than see Bernie Sanders be president of the United States. Let's just be very clear about that. Let's just be very, very clear about that. And so, Santita, when you talk about messaging and Livonia and Dr. Gibbs and everybody, like as we're talking about all of these things, we're not, and I say we because I am a lifelong Democrat, we're not, we haven't been listening for a long time. We don't listen to people. And I'm a broken record here. Santita knows it. When you have Joe Biden running around the country talking about this beautiful, wonderful economy, and people can't afford groceries or rent, or they're rationing their medication, or they're worried that their child is going to get sick and they can't take them to the doctor, or their child is sick and they can't take them to the doctor. And he's talking about people that are invested in the stock market and how wonderful it is. Like, who are you talking to? And then, Cindy, to your point, young people, I hear this every day. Every day, young people, one, they're worried about like what planet is going to be left for them and for their, if they are able to have kids and all things. But two, am I ever going to be able to afford a house? Am I ever going to get out from under my student loan debt? All of these things that I mean, young people are beholden to no one, and they're like, I mean, it is just every day it's trauma on top of trauma. And so, you know, I I'm a lifelong Democrat for a reason because I always believed we were the party of humanity. We were the party of working class people and everyday people who weren't sort of the elitist class. And sure, there was some room in there for some of that too. There's some room, but really overall, it was for everyday people. But I haven't seen that in a long time. I don't think any of us have, and we stopped listening. our party, our leaders stopped listening. We're seeing it today. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries stopped listening. You know, the president, when we had the White House, stopped listening, and all the finger pointing and all the stuff. I mean, of course, now we see it on the other side. He's got the Republicans have all the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they want to point fingers. But we had the House, the Senate, and the White House at one point, and tell me what we did. You know, although I will say we did accomplish some things. Of course, we didn't talk very well about those things either. But there is also a lot of
But
things
it
that we
didn't.
just did not do.
But Ronnie, it hasn't landed with the public. The fact is, the
Right.
Democrats
Well,
are less
absolutely.
popular
Absolutely.
than the Republicans, even though there's a split in Congress. The fact is, it's not working.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not working. I know you've got to go, Dr. Gibbs. I want you to have a final word before you do.
Okay, I'm sorry, Tio, that I'm going ahead of you. My apologies. I just have to go. But yeah, I think that basically what the Democrats are facing is that they've lost repeatedly, and they failed to learn anything from their loss. I think one of the big mistakes, one of the big reactions to this, honestly, has been to come up with this ridiculous conspiracy theory of Russia is what created Donald Trump. And so we had Russiagate. We're consumed with Russiagate, a complete fraud. And so I think that my biggest criticism of Bernie Sanders, by the way, of course he's made mistakes, and I think his biggest mistake was endorsing Russiagate. Now, people forget that Russiagate was used to smear Bernie Sanders. He was an agent of Russia also. People forget that. After he won the Nevada primary in 2020, the Washington Post had a story, very well timed. The CIA thinks the Russians are backing his candidacy. Totally out of the McCarthyite playbook. 100% reminiscent of Joseph McCarthy and J. Edgar Hoover. And amazingly, he didn't really push back against that. And he pretty much endorsed that Russia's trying to interfere in America's elections, for which there's not a shred of credible evidence. And so I do criticize Bernie for, that he didn't push back against the narrative of Russiagate, which was used against him, not just against Trump. And so I think the Democrats have to ditch these sort of distractive conspiracy theories and come up with, what did we do wrong? The answer is a lot, all right? But they have to accept their own accountability for failure and admit failure before they can move ahead. And they seem fully resistant to doing that. Until they do that, I don't see they're going to make very much progress.
Dr. Dave Gibbs, The Revolt of the Rich. And we're going to continue to weave that book into this narrative, because we're coming up on 3 elections tomorrow.
Thank you.
And we'll have today, actually, thank you. And we'll have to see, we're all waiting to see what that's going to portend. But quite frankly, I think that the political, social, and cultural environment is so electric. We have to see what the net effect will be when these Social Security checks stop. Because, see, they close the offices, so if you have a problem, if you haven't received your check, you have no one to call. I mean, they're fully expecting for some people to have their payments delayed for months, plural. Because not because Social Security didn't work, the system has been working for almost 100 years. It's been unplugged, like the post office. The postal workers, they have rain, snow, sleet, and hail. They have always gotten everything to us, but their system has been unplugged because these people want to privatize it, and it didn't start with Trump. Everybody, you have corporatists in both parties who want to privatize the systems that are meant for the public good. T.O. Hardiman, are Democrats reading the room?
Yeah, I don't think the Democrats are reading the room properly right now, because unless the Democrats reinvent themselves and come up with a clear message in 4 different categories, one being the economy, gun control versus like gun rights, dealing with reducing gun violence across America, the immigration issue as well. But I see what happens a lot of times. You have even kind of like rebuilding some of the infrastructures in some of the communities throughout the United States. The African American community is still suffering a lot when it comes down to economic development in some of our major cities. Okay, I just want to put that out there. And the Democrats, the way I look at it, one of the front runners, I'm not going to mention his name, this particular person continues to talk about the same topics the Democrats lost on. seriously. They're bringing up some of the issues that they lost. So my reality, the way I'm looking at it from the ground level and from a lot of people I talk to in politics, is that if the Democrats do not reinvent themselves, they will continue to lose. We need some new players to come to the table, because another thing about politics, Santita, and I know, if you say anything contrary to what somebody else believes in, if they're in a position of power, you can become their enemy for the rest of your life. We have to learn how to let some of that stuff go and bring people to the table that you may not want to bring to the table, because like an individual like myself, I'm outspoken, but I speak on facts. I don't speak off no emotions. I do my research and everything like that. But if you make any comment, if somebody see you, I was working with a guy from Naperville, and one of the Democratic Party people saw him in a picture with somebody else, and they held that against him because he just took a photo out with somebody. We got to stop doing that kind of stuff and really work on some strategies that's going to uplift the United States of America on a higher level. Anytime Democrats got beat in the presidential election by Donald Trump, the Democrats are suffering, because Donald Trump, in reality, now understand this, everybody, I was leaning towards Donald Trump. I'm not going to fake with nobody because the way he was talking and everything, but I'm looking at what he's doing now, and I just don't like it.
Well,
Yeah.
no, let me ask you, what about Donald Trump was appealing to you? And I'm asking you, not with any prejudice, everybody.
No, that's fine.
Because
That's
no, really, I have to say that, because
Yeah.
Ethelene and
Right.
I believe Solomon, the other people who
Yeah.
are here, a lot of people, he is not weak.
Right.
He's not been a weak candidate, Rania, Livonia, Dr.
Well,
I want to know. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, because I
one
have my,
second, I'm sorry about that.
I had
You
no,
know what,
I have a sense of
everybody,
of
sorry about that, everybody.
Okay, you went
Can
out.
you hear me?
Okay, now
Yes.
Sorry about that.
what is it
I
that
have some.
that's appeal to you?
Let me say this quickly before I get to that, if you don't mind. I
Okay.
have some 13-year-olds here on the south side of Chicago. They are about to turn in 10 AK-47s automatic weapons to me today.
Oh,
They're going to turn them in to me. So I just got a call. Don't worry about it. I'm dealing with it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that. What appealed
thank you for that.
when it comes to me with Donald Trump is that Donald Trump appeared to be like a man's man. He was talking a lot of good talk. He was talking about how he's going to change the system. Like some of us guys, we had this thing where we want to buck the system sometimes in our minds. But I see so many flaws in Donald Trump now. But that's why I was leaning towards. A lot of my people was leaning towards him as well. It wasn't just me. It was like, a lot of people in the African American community, especially African American men, because the way he was talking. But sometimes you can see through the facade, though. I'm seeing through his facade right now, to be honest with you, when it comes to some of his policies right now. And what really messed me up with him too is when Elon Musk made the comment or the suggestion that they should pardon Officer Derek Chauvin, the guy that killed George Floyd, right? And that kind of threw me for a loop, to have somebody in your office, in your cabinet, that even thinks that way. That threw me off. And then you're talking about cutting down on people's Social Security. Come on, man. I have a lot of relatives. I know people that are receiving Social Security checks. That's the only check they have coming once a month. That's their entire life. So if you're willing to step on poor people like that, you shouldn't be in office. Because the DOGE trying to, government efficiency. I mean, they laid off all those federal workers, and now they continue to try to lay people off, people losing their jobs. You cannot do that to working class people that actually voted for you. He's dead wrong for that. That's the reason why I shifted back over a little bit, because I don't like playing the middle anyway. But the thing is, the Democrats, they were not appealing to anybody. The same old issues. And like I say, I don't want to go on your show and say what I really want to say about one topic, but they continue to push this one agenda. And I don't know why it's a priority. You want me to say it? Where they continue to push the LGBTQ agenda, which, understand this, I'm not against LGBTQ. I love all people. I mean that literally from my heart. I've saved the lives of a couple of LGBT people throughout my career. But the point I'm making, they continue to push that agenda in the trans agenda. No one's homophobic. And when we talk about it, people accuse us of being, no, I'm not homophobic. I know a lot of people that they do what they do in life. It has nothing to do with me. But I don't know why the Democrats continue to make that a priority. Miss Harris, when she was running for president, she stated that if a person is in the federal prison, the United States government would pay for an operation if they wanted to do a sex change. They would pay for. Why is that a priority? That's what I'm talking about. So the Democrats, in my opinion, should get back to the basics and help create a vision on how they really going to lift the country up for everybody. for everybody, sincerely. And when it comes down to illegal immigration, migrants, asylum seekers, like I said before, they have to package that story the proper way. I said it, Santita, if the people were asylum seekers, they should have said that more so than just saying illegal immigrants. That's how Trump beat them out. And I want to say you were right, Santita, because I've traveled the state again in Illinois, and I ran into so many Ukrainian, immigrants that are here in the United States, and nobody's talking about the Ukrainians, the 38,000 that were brought here. Okay, refugees, right? Refugees. There you go.
But they have been fashioned into immigrants because their way they were paid.
Right.
They have a fast track to citizenship, jobs, housing,
Yes.
et cetera. And we have not discussed that. And I'm like,
And,
you know what? If you want to do that for these people who you're bringing here to work.
Right.
See, we're pulling these little brown and black people in the South and Central America, because there were more black people sent to Central and South America than were brought to the United States. They're being brought
and I
here
want
to
to say,
work.
yeah, there you go. And I want to say this quickly, if you don't mind. What sold me to Donald Trump is something real simple, everybody. Donald Trump was videotaped in an African-American church. And he went in his pocket and he pulled his bankroll off. And that's something I do all the time when I go to church. I pull my little bankroll out, and he peeled out $20, Santita, and donated it to the church. Now, it put me in the mindset of the way some of my people think. I mean, it might sound simple, but he put himself in an ordinary man's category, even though he's a billionaire. So there's a lot of things I used to like about Donald Trump. That might sound simple to everybody else, but to me, that kind of won me over, because I do that on a regular basis. It made me think he was one of us, and he was talking.
Well, I think that's why I brought up his exclusion on a social level, Livonia and Rania and Dr. Latrice in New York, because
What's going on? Okay.
Classism is real. It's real. And he behaves like he is the excluded guy because he has been. And so what people do not, what's not well known is that in 2015, Livonia and Rania and Dr. Latrice, before he launched his campaign, he went on a tour and he met with black businessmen all over the country. He wanted to know, is it feasible that I run? And if I run, what do you want?
Yes.
What that you are looking for? See, wait a minute, because I know there are a lot of people for whom I have a lot of respect, who he was able to see, touch, and feel, and who supported him. He became such a toxic product because the media turned on him, quite frankly, that they didn't say anything, but they supported him. And so, what did you say, Solomon? Why should Trump do anything for us when black leadership don't want to meet with him? And they should meet with him, because I think that, politics is transactional. I didn't say that. And then you decide who you want to vote for. But I think that no one should be out for 4 years. Nobody, because we have things that we need right now, like these Social Security offices open, and that's just a fundamental need. But Dr. Latrice, I want to hear from you. Everybody's got a whole lot to say.
Okay.
This is for me. This is an interactive conversation, because for the last couple of weeks, we've been having conversations in the communities with people who are significantly impacted by these rapid changes that are taking place. And although it's created a level of fear, what it has also done is cause people to pay attention and to not be so excluded as they thought they were before. Because around election time, people were so turned off by what was taking place. They kept saying, this has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with me. I was hearing all kinds of responses when I was asking, are you going to go vote? Do you feel like, your issues are being heard? Those questions that we were asking people, they felt completely left out of the race. And many of them tapped out, like completely tapped out. Now what's taking place now is people are walking around gritting their teeth, biting their nails. They don't know what to expect. All those things that people said is impossible. He can't do that. He won't do that. All of them are being done right before our eyes. And it's almost like we're inside of a movie watching this take place, and nobody's saying or doing anything for fear of being retaliated against. And this has created a major level of trauma that I see. People are not sure if their medical coverage will be in place. They're not sure if they'll still be able to run their businesses. And we already were struggling with the groceries. So we can add that to the list of things, but so many things have taken place. I'm sitting back wondering, how on earth do we have this many people who are in these electoral positions and nobody's really coming together to unite and try to do something to represent the people? So I can see how the public, how the people who are civilians, I can see how they feel left out, because they're over feeling the real effects of the changes. And it doesn't look like people are saying much. I mean, people are disheartened. I just heard a story today in Chicago that that the Trump administration is going after a lot of the social justice advocates and the attorneys that represent them. And this is unbelievable for me, because they really want to go into those files so they can go after the individual people. And it goes against every law of confidentiality when it comes to how attorneys represent.
Girl, we did this. They did this to Dr. King and everybody. Every justice. This is how we do. Now we need to stop it. Let's stop acting as if this is not how you. If you are a dissident, if you are pushing for social change, they're going to jam your taxes. You're going to have people spying on you.
Yeah.
You get sabotaged. Corporate media is against you. Come on, everybody. Oh, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh, get out of here. This is how we do. This is how we do things. This is how we do it. Where's Montel Jordan when I need him? What? I mean, Rania, wait a minute. Because we were just at that DNC. Yeah, I had to pull a little in there. But I mean, Rania, because we were at the DNC meeting at Livonia. I keep going back to Rania. Rania, Ariel, and I were trying to, and Maya, we were working, trying to get Jim Zogby in, who you have worked with, Livonia, for more than 40
Wonderful
years.
person.
Okay?
Yes. A steward
Because
of the democracy.
Livonia was part of the ground crew in the Jackson campaign. And so, you know, it was, and particularly in the first campaign, it was just a few of us. It was the people. And then you had people like Livonia who were real bona fide professionals who just said, look, we can't fail. So we got to make this work. So that's what they were doing. And you did it with the rainbow too, because we didn't have any money, but we had a mission.
And passion.
And passion.
And a vision.
And a vision.
Right.
Well,
But I'm glad you brought up the Democratic Convention.
And we were pushing for the people, though. But so no, hold that. No, go on, Livonia, because I do want Rania to follow up with you about who was elected, and if because that was our complaint. No, because the people who we saw them put in place, we were like, can they sell this to the public?
Because there's a problem within the party. Let's call it like we see it. We are sitting here looking at from outside in, but inside there is a major problem. I'm going to give one example and as we move on. Here in Michigan, we have a Democratic mayor who has been in office. He's been elected three times as a Democrat. He has announced, and he is moving forward and has support to run as an independent. He's running as an independent. He's a Democrat now. He's running as for governor as an independent. We have people in the Democratic Party who are running as Democrats. This is a $75 million to $100 million deal. It's more than that now. $100 million to run for governor. And guess what? As an independent, this man who has been a Democratic mayor of the city of Detroit is now running as an independent and is in the race as the number one candidate. There's a problem at home that we really must deal with, as you were saying, Santita.
Rania, the people who we have seen, I mean, because they always reject the people who can do the most for them, or who try.
Well, I mean, I do think there were a couple of people who I'm glad are in there, but the reality is it always depends on what is the chair going to do? Like, what are those vice chairs going to be? Are they going to be props again? Is the rest of the DNC, are they going to be props? Like, who are the members of the DNC? So there's always, there are good members of the DNC who've been, Jim Zogby is the perfect example. He's been inside the DNC for decades, literal decades. There are people that
Yes.
have been inside there sounding the alarm bells, and trying to push for change and trying to push for transparency, and have been blocked at every single turn. So the reality is that, and Santita, you've heard me talk about this. The chair that was elected beat the establishment. He beat, and I will say, like, the guy that he beat is somebody I've worked with. I love him and everything, but
Mhm.
but he was endorsed by Schumer, by Jeffries, by Pelosi, by all this establishment leadership. And Ken Martin, who is the newly elected DNC chair, beat all of those people. To me, what that means, because who the DNC membership essentially are the blue no matter who people, right? They're the establishment of the establishment.
Yeah.
They voted that guy down because they did not want that. So to me, what that says is even those people want something else. Is Ken gonna step into that and be that person and step into that role? I don't know. I haven't seen evidence of that yet. I don't know. I'm not saying he is or he isn't, because I haven't seen anything to say that he's not going to. But I also haven't seen anything to say that he is going to. But the reality is, I think when you have like I said, the most establishment wing of the electorate of our party saying we don't want that, which frankly, even to me, my mind is blown that even they got there, then even they're there. Can we listen now? Can we
I think
finally
they
get
were
the
reading. I think they were reading the room because there was so much anger out here in November,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Mhm.
then afterwards. I mean, because look, I was talking to a young man who's from whose both of his parents have done extremely well, and he has grown up with as a young black boy with privilege. He's come out of the top schools that cost you about that would give the average person $300,000 or $400,000 worth of debt. He has no debt. Okay, so his parents and were able to. None of his siblings. He and his siblings don't have debt. That's a big, 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 big deal. He said, "How are you going to run for president on sororities and the Divine Nine and on Howard?" This young man said this to me, and this is someone who we were very close. And he knows I am Divine Nine. I'm Howard. All of that. He said, "Huh? He said that doesn't work." I mean, that's my only point. I'm like, y'all got to read the room. Bernie's reading the room. I mean, he's been reading the room a long time, but it's going to take even more than that, I think, because you got to talk to Tio. See, because Tio is one of these people who's like, look, somebody do something. I'm not trying to speak for you, Tio. That's these kids are doing the gun. They're doing the gun dumps to him. So he's got a crew out here. See, I'd be talking to him. He's got a radio show. I'd be talking to him. He's run for governor in Illinois. Got almost 30% of the vote. I'd be talking to him. They're not talking to him, which to me, that's crazy.
That's exactly it, Santita. That's exactly it. They would not go. They refused to go into those difficult rooms. And listen, Tio, I have nothing but love for you, but like Donald Trump makes my stomach turn. But
I hear you.
I hear everything that you're saying, and I feel that. And the reality that we all have to contend with is he showed up. He showed up in Michigan.
Exactly.
He went to the places, he went into those rooms, and he talked to people, and you've heard me say he spoke to the pain. And he lies. We know that he lies, but he showed up and he lied.
But I mean,
We
But then
couldn't.
Joe Biden told Kamala, "No daylight, kid."
Yep.
I mean, for real? I mean, wait a
Oof.
minute. He went no,
Yeah.
no. He jammed her.
Yes,
He
he
Yep.
did.
jammed. He jammed
Yes.
her. He did. He knew that she needed daylight in order to break through. He
Yeah.
would not let her do that. He jammed her. I don't want to hear about Donald Trump when she got incoming fire. It was not even fair. Norman Solomon and Jeff Cohen and Ruth's Action asked Biden to leave the race. To look, just announce that you're not. You said you were going to be a transitional president. That means you were not going to run for re-election. Would you move out the way 2 years
Hmm.
before so we can run a slate of candidates and get someone strong to win in the fall? He refused to do it. Ronnie, you know it's true. All the
Yep.
Hmm.
reports are coming out. I'm not. It was in the Hill. I mean, these stories came out. I'm like, what? Donald Trump, he will go into the difficult rooms. He went to the NABJ. Vice President Harris said, I'm campaigning. I know, my God, baby, I know you're campaigning, but you gotta go. You gotta go here. You, you,
Right.
I mean, you can't because you got dealing with people who feel some kind of way. You know this, Livonia.
You know, he also, when he attended the black journalists session, the first thing he said out of his mouth, "You guys don't have your speaker system together." I mean, the guy just speaks his mind. But here it
Well,
is, like I
no,
said,
no, no. He had been held up
yeah,
for an inordinate amount of time. When you are running
yeah, I
for
know,
president, it is a game of not inches,
yes,
millimeters.
but
And I mean, no, I mean, and then the first thing he got was a hostile question.
right,
No, come on,
I remember.
really? Come on.
I remember that, but I want to say this. I want to separate Trump from the Republican Party just for a second here, because
Okay.
I don't see Trump as Republican or a Democrat. I see him as a Trumpian.
He
That's what
is.
happened with Trump. And then the reality is that you have a lot of political cowards, in my opinion, in the Republican Party, because they did not know how to really mount up any type of offensive against Donald Trump with some of their own people. So Trump just took over. He was not going to be successful taking over the Democratic Party like that, but he took over the Republican Party. That's what happened with Donald Trump, and that's why we have him here
Mhm.
today.
And that's the only reason he's not a Democrat.
Yes.
Because look, when Reverend Jackson ran for president, I know I keep going back to that, but it was looking back, Livonia, it was something different. You had black Republicans for Jesse Jackson. The head of the young black Republicans for Jesse Jackson was Armstrong Williams,
Yes.
because black folks had no
Republican.
traction. This was about bringing the damned, the dispossessed into power. The portal was the Democratic Party. See, I'm not blue no matter who. I don't do that.
Hmm.
No. I need my black colleges funded. I need my banks. I need my businesses. I need education. Now, I need someone to deliver. That's it. That's it.
I believe that many folk, regardless of what party they were in, especially in the Democratic Party, but I'm gonna use culture and class and economics. Those folk who may not have a degree, and even those who had degrees, felt that the Democrats were not listening to them, as you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Uh, I need my uh, I need my school, my loan covered. The loan situation could have been a major piece because it had no color to it, really. I mean, you talking about a loan for somebody who is a white guy who works at U.S. Steel. That would be major. The loan for a brother who's working at Ford Motor Company would be a major issue. They could understand how to dissolve a loan that you could come home and your daughter or your son would say, the loan that you put out, mom and dad, is going to be taken care of by the government that you supported, Democrats. That could bring unity, but they did not hear you, Theo. Theo was always saying what he's saying. He's always been doing what
Yeah.
he's been doing. What they didn't hear, they didn't listen. They didn't
Mm,
listen.
that's
Well,
right.
you know what? I only have a couple of minutes left. Oh, okay. Um, because we want everyone to go out and vote.
Didn't
We
listen.
want everyone to go out and vote today. By the time you hear this, we will have count them, 3 elections, Rania. Everyone
Mm.
wants to know what's going to happen in Florida. Everybody wants to know what's going to happen in Wisconsin. I forget the other state. It's high stakes. Even the UN ambassador, the nominee, was withdrawn. They said we've got to hold on to this seat because the reason Trump is doing these executive orders, the president's doing them because he doesn't have the votes.
Mhm.
He doesn't have the
Hmm.
votes. He doesn't.
Right.
We have the power. We're not using it. Ronnie, I'm going to let you close things out. Okay, I know she's like, oh no. Yeah, oh yeah. Dr. Latrice, what's on your mind? What do you want to see happen? Because we're into the 2026 season. It has begun.
I want to see people unite and stand up against what's happening that's wrong, that's impacting all these households. And I don't know if it's going to take demanding the elected officials to speak up, to stand with us, but I still think that we have the power to push people to change by uniting. It's enough of us to make a louder noise so that we could really, really get the attention of those who are not really performing as they should, who are being paid to represent us. But I think that until then, we have to see our own actions move things before we can count on anyone else to move on our behalf, because right now it hasn't worked up until now.
And TO, of course, WVON from 6 to 7 Central
Yeah, I
Standard Time
say,
every
yeah.
Sunday. And thank you for being someone upon whom our young people can depend. I'm so glad that they trust you enough to deliver
Okay.
these guns to you. Thank you so much for that work that you're doing. The Violence Interrupters is his group, and thank you for doing just that. Tio.
Okay. I'll say it quick. Another thing that kind of turned me away from Trump, and I know people may not want to hear this, but it's coming out to be true now. The FBI just put some information out that fake assassination attempt. That might be too heavy for some people. That actually
Mm.
turned me against them. I knew from the start it was a fake assassination attempt, and I said it publicly
Alleged.
on several occasions. I'm just going to leave it
Alleged.
at that. That's
Alleged.
we use the word alleged,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, but I knew it in my spirit. I'm talking about what my spirit told me. That threw me off with Donald Trump. He's an absolute showman. I didn't like that as a grown man. I just didn't like. He was down in the polls before that fake, alleged fake assassination attempt. Now he went up in the polls right after that, like he was like a victim. It threw me off with him. I'm just going to be straight up with everybody, okay?
Honestly, it was alleged, but I
Yeah,
did.
you use that word.
Yeah, no, I'm not only because I don't that bullet got too close to his head for my comfort. I got to
Well,
be
check out
frank.
the leader. Check out the former FBI agent's interview about what
I
happened
will.
then, because check it out.
I
There's a
No,
lot
no,
of
no, no.
information about it now.
I will but I know that they're having a fight in these intelligence committee.
Yes,
So
yes,
I don't trust much of anything that I hear. What I saw didn't make me feel comfortable, and because I've prayed every day for my father not to be assassinated. I'm kind of
Mm.
feeling some kind of way about that,
I
because
got you.
I know his wife and children didn't feel good about that day.
Yes.
That was not. But Livonia, and then you, Rania.
I still believe in the people in America, and I really believe, and I like to go with the doctor and say that it's not only the leadership that should be speaking loud and clear, it should be the American people. We should raise our voices higher. I don't care if we got too much social media, we got Facebook, and we put everything on there. I mean, everything is on there. What we should be saying right now is what you've been saying, Santina, is that Social Security is a bedrock of those who have brought forth this country and should not be dismantled. That should be the clarion call everywhere through every social media, and everybody can participate for free. That's my clarion call and my request in saying that we should do that. We should not be waiting on somebody else. I always say, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Mm.
Rania Patrice, my sister, what
Yeah,
say you?
I feel a little bit of everything. And Dr. Latrice actually said, there's more of us, and I think that's exactly right. And I also just want to put a finer point on those with the most privilege seem to be the ones who are capitulating and rolling over the fastest, giving in the fastest, whether it is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries or the universities or some of these law firms, some not all, because some of them are fighting the good fights, I will say. Literally people existing in more privilege than a lot of us have right now, and just stepping aside ahead of time to make way for more fascism. And there are more of us, and it does make me sick to my stomach and angry that as that we're having to have these conversations about American citizens as you're coming back into the country, how to keep yourself safe and how to keep your data safe, because it's not about keeping your data safe. Like, I've got stuff I'm not doing, there's nothing on my phone that's illegal, but they will make it illegal. They will make me, they will detain me illegally and make it so that I am a criminal for nothing. You know what I mean? For nothing. And these are the things that the whole idea, we're living it. Your silence will not keep you safe, and we're living it right now. We're living it right this second, right now. And this idea, if anybody thinks that, like, you're going to keep your head down and that's going to make it okay and it's going to make you okay, well, guess what? I promise you will be next. And that is the most cheerful way that I can say it.
Well, I think these are very interesting times. But if you go back to the American Revolution and when our founding framers, who were, I'm not going to say they were not perfect, they were human beings, but they did come up with a brilliant document that, even with their frailties and fragilities and faults, it's something that we could use to become free and to become a more perfect union. Benjamin Franklin was asked at the conclusion of the convention, "What kind of government have you given us, sir?" And a woman from the crowd shouted that at him, and he said, "A republic, if you can keep it."
Mm.
Now, every generation has their struggle and they have their charge. It is our charge to keep the republic and to increase democracy. None of this is free, everybody. Everybody pays a price. If you want a more perfect union, you've got to perfect it. If you want a republic, you've got to keep it. It's a government of, for, and by you. If you want a constitutional monarchy, then let somebody else do it. But you want a constitutional republic, which means we've got to do the heavy lifting. If we want Social Security, we have to make it happen. If we want everyone to have equal access to equal high quality health care, housing, education, freedom, liberty, and justice for all, we have to make that happen. That's our charge. Dr. King didn't fail. Frederick Douglass didn't fail. Abraham Lincoln didn't fail. He might have wanted to, but he didn't. John Brown didn't fail. These people didn't fail us. Now we can't fail us, and let us not fail them. It's our job. It is our charge to keep. It's the republic, if we can keep it. You must keep hope alive. You must know you are somebody, and you must keep your dream alive. And wake up and make the dream happen. That's why God gave you that dream. Something that's supposed to fuel your waking hours. Everybody, let's get up and go to work. And get out and vote today. Get out and vote today. It's your country. This land was made for you and me. For you and me. For you and me. And all people who want to come here and perfect it. Let's get to work. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson, along with the crew.
Peace. Peace to you.
And love. God bless you.